Welcome to a new video for Global Scholarship for International Students, and today we'll be covering Japanese Government Scholarship for International Undergraduate Students, and they are known commonly as MEXT Scholarship. And we'll go through the application procedure, and we'll go through the whole process of how it works. So when you're applying for MEXT scholarship, the first step is to fill out the required application forms, but before that, we're going to check the eligibility requirements and for international students. And from then on, you need to pass the first screening, which they will look at your application forms, and they'll consider you and other applicants to receive them or not based on what you turned it in. And after passing the first screening, you're going to take the English. I probably will take English and Japanese proficiency tests beforehand because they require you to show some skill in Japanese, but not very good. They're not going to really concern about that, but make sure you take at least one Japanese proficiency test and make sure that you prove that you can speak English very well. And after taking English and Japanese proficiency test, you're going to do an interview at the Japanese embassy because they're not going to ask really hard questions. They're not going to ask, oh, what mathematical principle is this, or what scientific theories do you know. They're not going to ask that hard question. They're just going to ask to see if your English is good and to see if you can communicate in English. So after doing an interview, there might be a step right between taking English Japanese proficiency test and do an interview at the Japanese embassy, but we're not going to cover that in the undergraduate students. We're going to cover that in the graduate student process. So after doing an interview at the Japanese embassy, you're going to pass the preliminary screening. They're going to look at your interview and to see if you speak English very well, and if you pass that, you're gonna get an acceptance letter. So after getting the preliminary screening, you're gonna write an email to a Japanese professor, to a university that you want to go to, and you're gonna ask them politely, and you're gonna ask for an acceptance letter from them, and they will give it to you. Just choose one professor. You may wanna email a Japanese professor at a very famous university, but instead of doing that, I would do that first, and then I would send another acceptance letter to a decent university that you want to go to, because a famous professor at that top Japanese college might not have time to look over your acceptance letter, look over your email before the deadline is due. So I will send one to a very famous university, and I'll send one to a very decent as a safety. So I would do that, and you're gonna go through the immigration procedures, and welcome to Japan if you pass all these steps. But you need to pass these steps beforehand in order to go through the immigration procedure to go to Japan. So we're gonna go through all these steps. Probably we're gonna go through, fill out the required application form, and we're gonna go over English and Japanese proficiency tests, and we'll start from there. So we're gonna exit our presentation, and we're gonna go through our Google search engine. So what I did was I already went through the process beforehand, and I searched out the websites that I need to get information from. So after looking at the Google search engine, you're going to type in MEXT scholarship. So you might ask, what are MEXT scholarship? MEXT scholarship is a Japanese government scholarship, and they name it as MEXT because if you search this, you click on the fourth, don't click on that, you click on the fourth one, Japanese Government Scholarship Students, which is studyjapan.go.jp. You're going to click on that because all this, the first 2 or 3 is for United States citizens, but this is for all students. So after clicking on that, you're going to come to this website right here. So you're going to come through to this website right here. Study in Japan, Japanese government scholarship students. Why is it called MEXT? You might ask. So if you just click in, if you just look at some of the things right here, you can see it is a short term for Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology in Japan. So that's why they call it MEXT. And since they are the ones who are giving out scholarship, it is called MEXT scholarship for that reason. So if you look at, you can come to this website right here. We're gonna look at types of Japanese government scholarship first. And if you look at this, you're going to look at the undergraduate students, since we're looking at application procedure for undergraduate students. We're going to see the eligibility requirements, the age limit 17 to 25, and duration of the scholarship, preliminary Japanese language training if you are new to the language of Japan, fields of study, designated country worldwide, planned number of new scholarship recipients, about 460, and it has a scholarship stipend. We're going to look greatly into that when we're going through the application procedure. And as you can see, for undergraduate, you can only have embassy recommendation instead of university recommendation, so you need to look at that while you're going through. We're going to look at embassy recommendation only because it is the only way that undergraduate can go through. So local acceptance, that's for Japanese students, so this doesn't apply to us. And examination question, we're not going to go through that, but if you want to look at it, it has a qualifying examination for applicants for Japanese government scholarship. We're not going to go through that but if you want to go through it, do go ahead, but it's not required yet for your application process. So examination required for embassy recommendation, as you can see, undergraduate students, Japanese, English, mathematics, and science. And as you can see, it has additional information for science examinees. You can choose two, are required to choose two out of following 3 subjects, chemistry, physics, or biology. So make sure you study well in your subject that you're applying for as your undergraduate student. And as you can see, Japanese and English proficiency tests are required. They don't require a high grade for your Japanese proficiency test. They don't expect you to pass since you're not required to go to Japan yet. So they're not going to look closely into that, but make sure that you show that you're willing to learn the Japanese language, and if you do that, you're likely to pass the preliminary screening. So as you can see, we looked at the types of Japanese scholarship, and we're going to go through the eligibility requirements really quick. Undergraduate university students 17 or 25 years of age and have completed 12 years of school education or have completed courses in a school comparable to high school, and that's about it. It's the same thing that we looked at in our types of Japanese government scholarship. Eligibility requirements is very simple, and we're going to go through the application process. So as you can see right here, for those outside of Japan, for international students, you can get an embassy recommendation or university recommendation. Only these 2 ways, but we looked beforehand and we saw that undergraduate students only can use the embassy recommendation. So how can I do the embassy recommendation? For international students, it's very simple. As you can see, Japanese embassy is going to look at your documents, and they're going to screen it, and they're going to recommend you to the Japanese government. But beforehand, you have to know where they're located. So right here, embassy recommendation has a list of websites for Japanese embassies, consultants, and permanent missions. So if you click on that, and go to this site right here. It has all the embassies that are located in various countries, and find your country, and you can contact them and ask information. And how do you do that is you go click on the embassy of Japan that is located in your country, and you just go to contact us, and it has all the information for education and scholarship. You can just send an email address to this for education and scholarship if you have any questions. And even better, you know the address of their embassy. So after the interesting thing about MEXT scholarship is that they require you to turn in the application form to the embassy directly, um, because that's their way, and you can mail it to them, I think, but it is very safe, more safe if you just go to their embassy and turn in the application yourself, because the MEXT scholarship are very rewarding. I'm not going to talk about this yet, but they are very rewarding. I'm just gonna say that. So as you can see, it has the recruitment dates. Recruitment for those arriving in Japan next April is made between April and May, and the initial screening is made at the embassy between June and July. So if you turn in your application format between April and May, the interview, documentary examination, written test, and interview is made at the embassy between June and July, and then the embassy recommends selected candidates by late August. So you might say, but I'm just gonna comment this later. But April and May, that is not the only recruitment. Um, if there are also another recruitment process that we're gonna go through. It's not only between April and May, but it is recommended to apply between April and May for international students, because you start school by late August. So as you can see, oh no, you apply between April and May, and you go there in next April, and it takes a year about for the scholarship process, because it's a highly rewarding scholarship process. So let's go through the application process. We're going to exit the embassy site, and we're going to exit the embassy of Japan. So we're going to go through the application process. So because it doesn't have a direct link to this, so I searched for MEXT application form, and after that, I looked at the third one, the MEXT scholarship for 2019 undergraduate students studying in Japan. And if you click on that, you're going to go to this website. So it has definition of undergraduate students, fields of study. Make sure you look into this and look at the notes and the highlights for it. And it has a prep education and study at university. This is for students who are not yet familiar with the Japanese language. You are required to take at least 1 year beforehand to learn the Japanese language. And don't worry, you're not going to pay additional fees. Your scholarship will be lengthened to 5 years instead of 4 years if you're taking prep education, because you need to take at least 1 year of language, Japanese language, and you take 4 years of your undergraduate degree. So university education, it will be determined by MEXT, and you cannot say no to the university education. So if the if the Ministry of Japan wants you to go there, you have to go there. And since they're paying the money for it, it's kind of good. But there's very small freedom allowed, but they're going to give you a lot of money to cover that. So as you can see, there are prep education, preparatory education and study at university. There are also direct placement, Applicants who have sufficient language proficiency may choose to enroll directly in their university without taking the prep education course. So they may skip the prep education course if they're proficient at Japanese, but if you're not, I prefer you to take the prep courses beforehand. And qualification and condition. So as for international students, nationality, applicants must have the nationality of a country that has diplomatic relation with Japan, so it has to be in a good standing with Japan. And age must be born between April 2nd, 1994 and April 1st, 2002. Academic background, applicants must satisfy any one of the following conditions. Applicants who have completed 12 years of schooling, applicants who have completed their studies at a school equivalent to a Japanese upper secondary school, and that's about it. So Japanese language, applicants must be willing to learn Japanese. So this is not you're required to learn Japanese beforehand, but you must be willing to learn Japanese, and you must show that desire. And because of that, they're going to require you to take the Japanese proficiency test. They're not going to expect you to pass because you're an international student and you don't know Japanese language. But as you can see in the requirement, you must be willing to learn Japanese. So health, applicants must submit a health certificate arrival in Japan after you pass all the screening and an interview and the documentary process. You're going to go through immigration procedure to go to Japan, and it has the dates right here. Visa requirements to go to Japan, and there's also non-eligibility. Look at that closely, but if you're truly an international student, you're not gonna fit into non-eligibility sections, but make sure you go through all this. And we're finally go through the period of scholarship. So as you can see, students are going through the prep educational courses 1 year beforehand. They're going to lengthen the scholarship to 5 years, but people who just directly enroll without doing any prep educational courses are going to get 4 years because that's the normal years for undergraduates. So there's also an extension of period of scholarship. So if you do exceptionally well during your stay at your Japanese college, you're going to receive and you get admitted to a master's graduate school. They're going to extend the scholarship period based on your academic performance. So we're going to finally get to scholarship benefits. It has the allowance, 117,000 yen per month, and educational fees will be covered. Traveling expenses, so this is full ride, and educational fees, tuition, everything will be covered. Traveling expenses will also be covered. A round trip from your country to Japan will be covered also. Suspensions of payment scholarship, look through that. Make sure you don't violate all that after receiving the scholarship. And selection process. And we're going to go through the application documents. So as you can see, it has the application form, direct placement preference form. This is for only for applicants desiring direct placement. I wouldn't really concerned about that because I would just go through the stay 1 more year at Japanese college and receive the Japanese language education first, and also academic transcript for all years, graduate certificate of last school attended. Recommendation, this is very important. They're going to take this very seriously because it is a place of formality, and they really highly consider respect in their application process. So make sure your seal from that school is very official. It's official, and make sure you don't break that seal or make it unofficial in any way. So make sure you make the recommendation very official and polite, and also with respect. So after that, we're going to go through the medical certificate, and also for certificate of enrollment for those Currently, this is not going to apply for undergrad because you're going to apply right after high school. Certificate of University Enrollment Qualification examination, we're going to see if that applies for undergraduate, for prospective, for a high school student who are applying for undergraduate, and certification of language proficiency. So we're going to look at 7 and 8. So a copy of graduation certificate obtained for last school attended. Okay, so it's like a diploma of your high school if you're looking at it from my perspective. So, and after that, it has some notes about after you receive the scholarship. So you might ask, where did I get all this information from? And what I did was I looked at the embassy recommendation and I searched, do embassy recommendation really work? Because I don't really see any point in turning your application into an embassy and they're gonna contact you. I highly doubted that process. But when I looked at and I searched this beforehand to see um, what is an embassy recommendation process. Um, and right here, there's a first post that pops up, MEXT Scholarship, My Experience and Suggestions by Jane and Paul. And I looked at his sources and looked at his experience, and I went through how he went through the application process himself, and I took out bits and pieces of it so that I can use it for this video. So as you can see, if you have any questions, just comment down below, but look at this post if you have any questions, because this really helped me a lot and it really outlined my video to show you the application process for international undergraduate. And for international graduate, we're going to look at this more specifically because he applied for international graduates and he got accepted, and this is experience and suggestions that we're going to go through. So this is a basic process for MEXT scholarship for international undergraduate students, and I hope this helps. And it's been a while, and it's because I've been searching for topics that are relevant to you instead of just like doing an application process for a random university that you don't know. So Japanese government scholarship are very popular among international students, and I hope this helps, and I'll come out with the next video soon.